We are live from different locations throughout the DMV, and this is the Neighborish live cast. Welcome. I'm Super Dave, aka Mr. Incredible, and as always, I'm joined by two of the most interesting people in the District of Columbia, or in the DMV area, excuse me. First of all, the personal trainer and fitness guru, Miss Foo Fit herself, our own
Fruit fit.
local dose of feminine energy, Miss Patrice Jones,
Yes.
and
Hello,
DC,
hello.
hey, and the DMV, oh, sorry, DC's native son,
Thank you.
the SC3 representative, Jay Son,
Hey,
the
hey,
team. How you guys doing?
we
Tired.
tired.
Tired. And today we got a great show. It's our salute to mothers, and because it is our salute to mothers, we have two very special guests with us today. My mom, hey mom,
Hi.
Yoshiko Cookie Johnson, and Jason's mom. Introduce your
Hello.
mom, Jay.
I don't have a cool introduction.
I
Hey,
thought.
world, this is my mom.
Hey, mom.
And Patrice is of course a mom herself, and so we have
Yes.
these different perspectives of mothers today. We're going to talk about a lot of things surrounding motherhood, how it changes you, the different things that you go through being a mother. We're looking forward into getting into all of that because yesterday was Mother's Day. And
Hey,
before I get into all the stuff that we're going to talk about, I just want to ask you guys: did you all have a good Mother's Day?
Yes, it was very
Yes.
nice.
Great,
Had a
great,
great
great.
Mother's Day.
Great, that's terrific. So we got a lot to talk about, like I said. But first, we always talk about some of the things that are going on in the city, in the country, in the world. We like to get perspectives on different things. This week, a lot has happened since we've been on last with the coronavirus. It's running rampant still, even though states and the government is really pushing to open back a lot of things. It seems a little premature in my opinion, just because there's still a lot of people getting sick. The levels aren't really dropping as fast as they would like it to. And I just want to, we have talked about this almost every week since we came back, just because it's been a huge topic. But I just want to, get you guys' perspective on this issue. Like, it's got to be something that you guys have never seen. It's an unprecedented situation. Excuse me. My mom's staring at me. It's got me a little nervous. But anyway,
I know. Don't that still make you nervous? I know. What is it?
yeah,
What is
I don't
it?
know. It's weird. But
Mom has special powers.
Just
yeah.
act like I'm not even here, okay?
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna turn your camera off. No, I'm just playing. I'm just playing. But yeah, I did want to get you guys, Miss
I'm
Green
not
and
gonna
Mom.
talk
You
about
guys.
you bad, okay?
Huh? You said what?
I'm not gonna talk about you bad. I'm not gonna give away your secrets.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you, thank you. But yeah, I just want to get you guys' perspective on it. Like, seeing something like the coronavirus, something that nobody's ever seen. Mom, like, what is your take on this whole thing? Like, the whole situation.
Well, the whole situation is really sad, but in reality, it's God's word. This is what's written in the Bible that things are going to happen and transpire through our lives. But we have to understand that we have an administration that does not take this realistically. We have the White House where they're not wearing the mask, but now they have people that are infected
Yeah.
there. And now you have some that are wearing masks. You have the vice president now who is quarantined himself. And, the president has really got to face reality that this is no joke. But, as my mom always says, you don't believe things happen until they really happen. And when it happens to you, it makes a big difference. But now that it's getting close to home with the White House, they're really going to have to really take hold and understand what's really going on because people are dying.
Yeah.
And that's no joke. Not in just, one or two. There are hundreds, thousands of people that have died and that are still dying. And now we're talking about the children that have a part of this pandemic, a different phase of it, but it's still part of it. And you've got children dying.
Okay.
And we really have to face reality on this and really take hold and understand that we must wear these masks and be safe with each other and distance each other.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah, and Miss Joey, how has your life changed based on this, or has it changed at all? Like difference in like the day to day things that you do?
It certainly has changed because I have to adhere to the guidelines. I never did go out a whole lot, but it's changed where I go. I used to go to the gym twice a week, and I can't go there. And church has changed. You
Definitely.
know,
Especially, yes.
can't go to church anymore, even though we've had drive-through church. But that has changed significantly. And also, there's been like a heaviness with
Yeah.
this coronavirus.
Yeah.
That has kind of enveloped the earth, I'd
Mhm.
say. And so, and I think that we're all dealing with that.
Definitely,
So,
definitely. So,
yeah.
well, with the gym part of it, we got Miss Fruitfit here, and she does.
There's no shortage of water.
Well, apparently not.
A little parts, just a little parts.
She just did her workout, so she got.
She ain't pull out the workout bottles. She pulled out the family.
59 cents at Lidl.
Oh,
Okay.
You said 59 cents. I'm going
Yeah,
over the lighter.
59
Oh,
Oh, that's
all
tap water right there. That's tap water.
right.
It might be a little hose water. I ain't never heard of smoothie yum. You
All
know
right.
that
Take us
is
back.
Right.
Yes.
So the other big
Might
story.
taste a little different now though.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
a little. Yeah. The other big story that's been dominating the news, of course, for the past week, the country's been gripped by the news of the slaying of the young man Ahmaud Arbery. According to police officials, when former police detective Gregory McMichaelson and his son Travis saw Arbery jogging through his neighborhood in Satilla Shores, Georgia, Travis allegedly told his son, "He's running up the street now, come on." The two men, armed with guns, hopped in their white pickup truck and began to pursue Arbery. Upon catching up to him, they passed him and blocked his path, at which time a third person recording from a dash cam pulls up. The video, which has been posted by radio stations and shared nationally by TMZ and other news outlets, shows Arbery make an attempt to run around the truck to avoid the gentleman when he's confronted by one of them holding a shotgun. At that time, an altercation pursues and Arbery is mortally wounded and collapsed. Now, the video is real difficult to watch. Like, I didn't even want to watch it. The only reason I did was in research, for this, to make sure I had all the facts. I didn't want to, say anything. I don't like to report on anything that I don't, have the facts on. But it's really tough to look at. And the crazy thing about it is this incident actually happened in February. And so the outcry that's coming out about it now is just out because the video was released. So, kudos, first of all, to whoever released the video, because they knew that outpour would pressure the district attorney in that area and other officials to make moves, because there was no arrest. There wasn't even really an investigation going on until, the public outcry came out. So I wanted to talk a little bit about, first of all, the media and social media's hand in moving the chains of justice. And we talked about this, Jason, before on the show, about how it can be instrumental. But it seems to be that I'm trying to remember who I heard say that wickedness can only exist under the cover of darkness. And so the social media seems to be, with all this fails and ills, it seems to be a beacon of light that's helping to kind of shed light on a lot of these issues and make things move a little better. Have you guys noticed that?
Well, it's making the move, better, but it's still a problem. It's still a problem.
Yeah.
This is one of many incidents that
Yeah.
we have heard about, but there are so many more out there that have not been discussed or brought to light. And that concerns me, because what's done in the dark will come to light, but it's taking too long.
Yeah.
It's taking too long. This never should have happened with this length of time before they actually made a decision to arrest these people. This should have been done back in February when this man was killed, not here in May when they decide, okay, yeah, well, there's been a problem now, there's been protests, now we must do something to kind of break it down a little bit so it won't be any more killings or protests, but the damage is done. You can't bring that child back.
Exactly.
You can't bring it back, and something really needs to be done about it. But as long as we have the administration in the White House and their racist thoughts, this is going to continue.
That's true. That's true. Mom Johnson 2020. She's running for president, y'all. Cash to I'm just kidding. But
Not in this lifetime.
no, but you brought about a good point because researching this really made me think about some of the other cases, some of the other things that have happened over the past couple of years, and how it's interesting how you don't really hear a lot about them. The young man that the police officer came into the house said she thought she was in the wrong apartment, and she shot him. She was convicted, but they were appealing it, and the main suspect or the main witness in that case. I don't know if you guys know he was shot and killed. And this is under suspicious circumstances too. So, but that case kind of died away. And then also the young lady who was standing in her house and the cop shot her through the window.
Yes.
You know I
Who
don't know
worked
if
for a
that
pharmaceutical company.
she worked for a pharmaceutical company.
Yep, she was pre-med. She worked for a pharmaceutical company.
Wow, I didn't know that. Yeah, and see, so information about these, do any of you know what happened with that case? Because I feel like it just kind of died away, right? Like they didn't really follow it any longer.
No, they squashed it.
I know the cop was fired, but as for legal action being taken against him, I don't know if anything happened.
There you go.
You said what?
I guess you really would have to do some serious investigation in order to follow up on that, because they have pretty much hushed. There's so many things that they've hushed on that you can't even find information on it because they don't want to talk about it. But it's newsworthy. It's an everyday thing. It's newsworthy.
Yeah, and it's crazy that it is an everyday. It seems to be almost an everyday occurrence now. There's always new video of of some young black man being either accosted or like in this case mortally wounded by someone a white person, and it's not really being prosecuted. It's not really being looked at to the fullest extent. It's in this age in 2020. Does the video help in any way? Does the video, I mean, besides knowing that these things are happening, it seems like they can make assertions about the video. Like they said that Donald Trump even said that the video of Aubrey getting shot doesn't tell the whole story. And it's like, how can a video not, you see what's happening. So is video enough in 2020? Not all answer at once, no. I'm just
You got to pick somebody, Dave.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna moderate. Jay, then, what do you think? Is video enough?
Is video enough for what?
To get convictions, to have the truth be known.
In America?
Yeah.
Hell no. Like the video don't mean nothing. All of our problems.
Mom is saying your camera's off.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what I did or what I'm doing. I had a call that was coming through on my phone, but I don't know.
I'll get it for you. Go ahead, Jay. Go ahead and finish your statement.
What was I saying? Well, no, it was just a simple no. No, video does not matter, and I don't think it'll be effective in causing any, significant change in how the country addresses its relationship with minority. I ain't gonna say minority. Well, I guess we minorities in this particular country, but no, I don't think video means anything because it hasn't really worked. I mean, I don't know. What you got, Mom?
I do think videos do have an effect. They do have an effect, but they don't change the whole thing that's happening because they come up with other things. But videos do matter, and they show what has happened. Now, what correspondingly happens after that, it doesn't change everything, but I do believe the videos do matter significantly.
Yeah, I think the videos are also strategically used to, to keep showing dead black bodies too. It's like, every time, like the dude Mike Brown.
Did you turn it around?
Like 3 hours in the heat and like 90 degrees. Like, why keep showing that over and over again? Why keep showing the dude, I think his name was Mr. Bird, that got shot in South Carolina in the back when he was running away from the cops? Like, why? What's the point of showing black death over and over and over again? So I think from my perspective, it's strategic because there's no need to see. I haven't even watched the video of the latest brother in Georgia, because it's like, for what? Like, why do I need to see his body die? Like, I
Right.
know what happened. Like, it's just a repetitious visual in your subconscious over and over and over again. And I think that's strategic, why media outlets let that happen, and why certain people you never see die. I know several white people that have been murdered, and there have been tapes, but either the family or whoever handles that case does not let the tape get leaked, and it doesn't become viral.
Right.
So but every time it's us, it's on the news, it's on the front page of the newspaper, it's a million views on YouTube. But I know several occasions where, white people have been murdered or died, and there's been video, but whoever surrounds that family or person or case, like, the video of the body is never shown, and also there's no circulation of the video via social media.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So yeah, we got mom back on. Hey, mom.
Hi there.
So yeah, but no, it is a serious. And I was just gonna, you kind of answered the question, Jay. I was gonna ask if you think it's a more strategic thing, to kind of keep that depiction of us basically being dominated, prevalent.
Yeah, I mean, because if you study old slave codes and conditioning of the human mind, like, that's a technique that I studied in college. Like, repetitious. Like, if you want people to have fear, or if you want to instill a certain type of authority over another group of people, like, you show them being dominated over and over. Same thing with Hollywood and television programming. Like, we always, well, as of late, we've kind of taken a little bit more control than we have in the past. But typically, the media is just used for social engineering and showing a paternal relationship with people of color, with European Americans, and so I think it carries over into events like this also.
Definitely, definitely. So we can talk about this and the impact of it for hours, but I want to move along a little bit just to talk about we lost a lot of people just over the past couple of days. It's been
Hold on, Dave.
Okay.
Tamika Love Jones says,
Oh, you got
Happy Mother's Day. And, great job raising strong, articulate men.
Oh. Well, thank
I
you.
don't think that's to us, though, Dave.
That's to our moms. So it's us through our moms. So thank you,
Do we
Tamika.
count in that? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you,
For sure.
Tamika. I'm sorry, Dave, but I
No,
didn't want
no
her
problem.
comment was leaving. I didn't want to forget it.
No problem. And yeah, anytime you have a relevant comment, you know what to do. But yeah, I was just talking about,
But our parents don't know how we interact, Dave. I don't want
It's okay, baby,
Yeah.
they've been around for a while. They know how to adjust. No. But yeah, it's been a lot of deaths recently of a lot of famous. We actually just heard this morning that the comedian Jerry Stiller, who was on Seinfeld, he played George's father on Seinfeld. He passed away either late last night or early this morning. Yeah, and so but more directly in the African American community, we lost some pretty much juggernauts of juggernauts. Did I say that? Anyway, of
Pause.
anyway, of the of the music community. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the contributions of Little Richard, and all that he did and
Architect.
sacrificed. Yeah, and he, would constantly, and you know what I noticed in researching this one, I noticed watching some of his clips, his interviews. Most specifically, he did an interview with David Letterman in 1984, where he was
That joint was so real.
was making these claims though. But did you notice that the audience was kind of they were laughing at some of the stuff that he was saying, like they kind of felt like it was a bit because of his flamboyance and stuff, but he was being serious about how tough his life was as a black man coming up, and they kind of took it. So it just shows that they necessarily don't know how to take us, even in the serious. And he talked about kind of having to be that character to be more accepted, in that time, to kind of be non-threatening and things of that nature, which is tough to think that you have to dull yourself down to be accepted by the masses. But yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about his life. So his name was Richard Wayne Penniman, but he was of course known as Little Richard. He was a singer, a songwriter, a musician from Macon, Georgia, and an influential figure in pop music and pop culture for 7 decades. The raspy, shouted vocals over frantic piano played and backed by pounding drums would become what's known now as rock and roll, a music style that will become one of the defining characteristics of America. And it's one of the three main defining characteristics. So it's rock and roll, apple pie, and racism. Oddly enough, I didn't know that was one of them. As
You're absolutely
no,
correct,
but
Dave.
but yeah, seriously, but just listening and researching, Little Richard, and seeing that he gave a lot of great acts their start. They started touring with him. People like Jimi Hendrix, Otis Redding, James Brown, Billy Preston, Mick Jagger, and even the Beatles started out touring with him when they came over, and that's how they kind of built their reputation. His On Wikipedia, his discography lists 26 albums between 1957 and 1992. He has a laundry list of hits, including Lucille, Good Golly Miss Molly, Long Tall Sally, and his signature hit Tutti Frutti, which was released in 1955. He's a huge impact. People are still sampling his music. People are still listening to his music, and he will, of course, be sorely missed. Rest in peace to Little Richard. I wanted to ask, Mom and Mr. Green, if you remember any specific things about Little Richard, or of course, later in his days. You guys, you weren't around back when he was starting out, but in his later years, do you remember, any specific memories of him or his music?
Well, I danced to it a lot, that's for sure. And grew up with that, and he was a influential person with music. But what influenced me more was that he stood his ground in letting people know how much he was taken advantage of as an entertainer, and how he was not able to establish his masters or any of his music to be able to have his own name, because everybody used him, like you said, his sampling his music, and him not getting paid for it.
Right.
He needed that, just like every other entertainer, in order to survive. When you take things away from someone, they lose some of their prestige. But this man spoke his mind. He spoke from his heart, and he put his voice out there to make it known that others can step on this and be able to get their masters or get their recognition in the way that they should. And I'm thankful to him for him to be that founding person, to be able to do that for other entertainers, especially black entertainers, for them to be able to be established and not lose what's actually theirs.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah. So anything to add to that, Miss Green, or?
I don't remember him that much. I do remember his music.
Okay.
I think all of us during that time frame remember his music, but I don't really know him that much.
Okay. Understood.
I have a story, Dave.
Oh, okay. Jason, I always forget that Jason is 73 years old. Go ahead, Jay. Talk about the
you keep forgetting, man. but just two significant points about Little Richard. Just even in that one interview when he's talking about how his record company wouldn't allow him to perform like a regular man. Yeah. They was like, he had to doll up, put the makeup on, and the hair and the eyelash. Right. He was like, then they would allow him to perform. But he was like, when he wanted to perform as his regular self, they wouldn't allow him to do shows. They wouldn't allow him to record. So he had to, in order for him to record or to perform, they forced him to put on the androgynous, because that fear of like those white girls in that crowd falling for a black man.
Exactly.
So the effeminization, I think if that's a word, of black men has gone. People think it's like now, but it's like nah. They was like nah. You can only sing if you're dressed up like a woman. So I thought that was significant, and that he said that in 1962 on the David Letterman show.
Yeah, that's right.
You know what I'm saying? He was going hard with that. And the other tidbit of information about Little Richard is that I believe it's a urban legend that Michael Jackson got all of the rights
Right.
to Little Richard's music and gave
Yes.
it to him for free.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, he would do
Yes.
stuff like
I
that.
didn't
That's
know
super
that.
duper gangster.
Yeah, people don't know how much Mike contributed to
Yeah, I mean, he did
black
that for a lot
people's-
of people, but Little Richard
He
was
did.
Specific-
Was one that
because
did
he
it
has
for.
so much
He
influence.
recognized.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mike recognized.
Beatles,
Yeah.
James Brown, Billy Preston, Jimi Hendrix. So for him to
Yeah.
not own his stuff, and it
Right.
contributed to so many
Right.
other genres of people. So Michael Jackson was an OG for that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's and Mike has done a lot of things that we consider gangster. This like I don't
Yeah,
know
he
if
has.
you heard the story that what's the comedian Eddie Griffin told about him with Paul McCartney and the Beatles. And how him and Mike and Paul McCartney were close, and they were working on music together. They were shooting a video for a song, and in casual conversation, Mike's just asking Paul McCartney, "Hey, if you were to," because Paul McCartney, of course, was one of the architects of the Beatles sound, so he owned a lot of their stuff. I think all of it. So Mike asked him, if you were to sell the Beatles stuff, how much would you sell it for? And they said Paul McCartney.
That's your
threw
Michael
out-
voice, Dave?
Yeah, that was on Michael. And they said Paul McCartney threw out like just a number, just being, in conversation. He's like 53 million or something like that. And so Mike was like, okay. And they went on about the song, and Paul McCartney had no idea that day Mike went home and called his people and bought the Beatles masters from up under him.
Yes.
And so from that day on, Paul McCartney and Mike had a rift between them, and they said Paul McCartney
Yes.
went back to him and said, "I didn't know you could buy all the stuff." And Mike's response was, "Well, you said 53, and I gave you 55 million." So that was his response for it. So yeah,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, Mike.
just being able to have that, just because of how much the Beatles, their repertoire was so huge, and a lot of stuff they took from artists, because of course they followed the Muddy Waters and the a lot of the black artists who really contributed to their sound, but they don't get credit for it. So Michael Jackson did a lot for our artists, a lot
And
more.
shout
than
out to
just-
Michael Jackson just because.
Just because.
Right.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, because with entertainers like that, especially with Michael Jackson, because he had a phenomenal mind,
Yeah.
and he did a lot of things, like you said before, that really attributed to a lot of great things happening now. But with us as a culture and us as a black people, that we're always going to have that one foot that's going to be on our neck to kind of hold us down. But if we continue to be strong and steadfast and not fight one another for what we have, but to share what we have, we'll be a better culture. Because we have to stop trying to be like crabs in a basket. Every time one gets up trying to get out, we've got others that's pulling us back. We have to let go and let us have our talents out there and move forward and help one another. And that only doesn't help the person that is building up, but it helps everyone. Everybody has a stepping stool that they can step up on and show their talent and put forth what they know and what they can do and be applauded for it.
There you go, Mom Johnson 2020. I told you she's running for no.
Oh, I keep forgetting this is not my radio station.
Right. But I also wanted to talk a little bit about one of the pioneering voices from the South, Betty Wright, the singer. She passed away. I believe it was yesterday. She was 66 years old, and
How old was
just
she?
66.
Wow.
She was 66.
Still young.
Yeah. Just a phenomenal voice. I was listening to some of her older stuff, and I was like listening to the level, because I work with a lot of singers. And so, and Jay, you have too, and just listening to the level of control and skill that she displayed on her 1968 debut album, my first time around, no one would have guessed that she was only 14 years old, like belting out those strong, mature vocals at that time. For a 14-year-old girl, that was, unprecedented. So her real name was Bessie Regina Norris, but she's better known, of course, as Betty Wright. And she even wrote songs on that first album, including a song entitled Circle of Heartbreaks, which was the tale of a woman caught in a cycle of love and betrayal by a man who takes the fact that she's bound by her love for him for granted. And that's such an adult concept. And she was, at 14 years old to write something like that is amazing. And she went on through her career to do amazing things with music. She had a huge comeback in the 80s with her single, what was the name of the one? We were talking about it earlier. I'm trying to find my notes here.
Clean Up Woman.
she did the Cleanup Woman in the 70s. And then
No
in
Pain, No
'88 she
Gain?
had No Pain, No Gain. Yeah, there you go.
No
The No
Pain, No
Pain,
Okay,
No
Gain.
Gain.
yeah,
I
Okay.
found it. Yep.
yeah.
Yeah.
And she worked with more recently she's worked with Puffy on Making the Band. She worked with the Roots Questlove to produce her last album that came out in 2011 entitled Betty Wright the Movie, which featured features from people like Joss Stone, Snoop Dogg, and Lil Wayne. So she was a huge, and I'm finding out a lot more prominent in the South than anywhere, but just her impact on music was amazing. And like I said, she passed away yesterday at her home. It says she was surrounded by friends and family. It was at her home in Miami. So yeah, rest in peace to Betty Wright. And also, just real quick, wanted to touch on the young man Andre Harrell, who you were talking about. Betty Wright being 66. Harrell was 59 years old, and they said he died of heart problems. I think it's interesting that none of them, that none of the stories mention coronavirus at all. So that's but anyway, so yeah, he had heart issues. Andre Harrell was a rapper. He started his career after him and his best friend started a rap group called Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, excuse me, and back in the 80s. And they had a couple of hits, but it was when he started working with CEO Russell Simmons, and after 2 years became vice president of Def Jam, that he really gained prominence in the music industry. Then he left and started Uptown Records, where he's credited with discovering some of the greatest acts of that era, including Guy, Heavy D and the Boys, Father MC, Jodeci, Mary J. Blige, Al B. Shore, and a young intern by the name of Sean Combs that would, of course, become P. Diddy. It's said that Harrell was instrumental in discovering Biggie also. His immense success in the 90s led to television and movie deals, which brought, stuff like New York Undercover, which was a classic show, and the movie Strictly Business with Halle Berry and Tommy Davidson. Since those days, he had been working with P. Diddy on Revolt TV, P. Diddy's television station. And like I said, it said he passed away the day before yesterday at 59 of heart problems. So he was a huge influence on the hip hop community, and another person that will be missed. It's like the deaths are just coming kind of back to back over the past couple of days. It's been crazy. I just heard that what's his name, Roy from Siegfried and Roy passed away the other day too. Yeah, so it's just been a lot of people. So I don't want to dwell on. It was a lot of people. It's a lot of death. I don't really like to dwell on it too much, but yeah, I just want to talk about it a little bit at least. So moving on to a little bit of a lighter topic, and this is one that I think will be interesting to get the perspectives of everyone on. MSNBC.
Hold up, Dave.
What's up?
Hold up, Dave. Man, it seems to be like an energy or something going on with all these deaths. I don't, it's typically, when we do the show, like, because we do a weekly show, right, we can kind of like monitor, social, I guess, current events per se.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's been a lot of deaths.
Yeah. Hey.
Yes.
Do we just gloss over that, or is like you think this is, and especially like with all of the stuff that's going on in the world, where people's mentalities are at, like how my mother was like, there seems to be like this heaviness.
That's exactly what I was gonna say.
You think that may have some type of contribution to people just like, I'm tired of this.
Well, I mean, I don't, and it's not necessary to being tired of it, but like I always say, mourning like the death or the loss of anything is a process, and so the process is as long for the individual as it needs to be. And so in this day and age where everything happens so fast, we got the coronavirus, we got the killer hornets, we got the this happening, people getting shot by the police and all this, we don't really have time to digest and process a lot of stuff. So even even death, unless it's someone close to you, I think we got into a point where it kind of loses its sting. I remember even with celebrities, even if you didn't know them personally, like for me personally, I remember when Tupac was murdered, I was at Eastern High School, and there was a young girl who had to leave, like she couldn't take it, like she had never met Tupac, but she just broke down. It was because he's such an influence. But I don't think we have the time now. Young people hear about, oh, that person died, oh, that's crazy, what's on the radio, they don't really have the time to process and kind of deal with their feelings. I don't know what kind of effect that has on people's mentality. I wonder if what do you think, Patrice?
So, I'm a little way left. and I've been sitting back, really processing all of this. Um, I don't know if you guys remember us talking about this before, but when the whole pandemic started, um, at the beginning of it, for the first 30, I would say 30 to 45 days, if you remember your timelines, no one was talking about race relations.
Exactly.
There was nothing, there was no
Mhm.
black anything, no police brutality, there
Mhm.
was
Mhm.
none of that stuff. I mean, even from like on Instagram, I try to follow conscious minds. Nobody was talking about any of that for like 30 to 45 days. And then all of a sudden, and I'm gonna tell you when it started, it was when the Surgeon General got on TV and said, Big Mama, Big Papa, black people need to stop drinking so they don't get coronavirus. And
Yeah.
then you saw social media shift back
Shift back.
to talking about race
Mhm.
relations. And I'm gonna take you, I
Mhm.
don't know if you guys seen, there are many series and many movies that depict what we're going through right now, because everything that we're going through, always everything that we're going through in the United States was already written. They already know what's going to
Yes.
happen.
Yes.
Mm.
And so the series Containment, there's a series called Containment.
Mhm.
It's
Mm.
literally moment by moment what's going on right now, and it's a Netflix series, and it was filmed April to July, where we are right now.
Mhm.
And
Wow.
in that series, he wasn't the Surgeon General, but there was a black guy that they used as a token spokesperson, and
Mhm.
he got on and he said yada yada yada. The CDC, the lady from the CDC in the Containment series,
Mm.
spoke that she wanted him to be the person,
Right.
and he got up there and talked to everybody. When I watched that, it wasn't but a week later that the Surgeon General, the United States Surgeon General, got up there and said the words Big Mama and Papa and the black
Yeah.
community. And I was sitting there, and me and my guy looked at each other, and we were like, "Oh my God, we just talked about this. Like we just watched this."
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then you saw your timeline shift, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
And then when I saw I by the way, I don't watch any videos of any murders. I don't. I just don't.
Oh yeah.
I think a lot of we have to be mindful, and this is where I'm going. We have to be mindful of, if everything that is going on was already written, it's already Hollywood already talked about it. There've been a series about it. Even to Miss Cookie's point, the Bible is already they already know what's going to happen. We have to be mindful of the things that are sent into our into social media is one dimension, that are sent to penetrate our 3 to 5 dimensional minds and our
Mhm.
spirits. And so you have all of these deaths happening, but it's like they're right in the forefront. And to your point, Dave, nobody's talking about Corona. Nobody said,
Mhm.
oh, we talked about 4 or 5 people that died, but nobody mentioned, all of these young people passed, and they didn't say, oh, well, we wonder if it was from, or, that sort of thing. So we have to be very mindful of the videos, the deaths, and everything that are
Mhm.
our coming into our dimension and coming into our foresight, the forefront of our thoughts, and how we move and how we allow our thinking to be shifted, and the fact that there's this placebo opening up of the country at the same time. So I've just been sitting back and processing, but I really think to Jay's point, that there's a very, for lack of a better word, there's a very eerie feeling and a notion about like how everything's happening right now. We're in the midst of something, and I don't know what it is.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, that uncertainty is definitely an eerie feeling, and I think that's what it is. Like, there's no, as much as it's been written, and it's interesting that you said that. I was just talking to a friend of mine about the Fast and the Furious movie that came out, Hobbs and Shaw, and I just watched it last night,
Yeah,
and they were,
yeah.
it was very like, while it was an action movie and it was fun and there was silliness and stuff. A lot of the plot was based on a virus that was out there, that was a biological warfare chemical virus that was going to be released on the public and kill people in mass. And I'm looking at it like, wait a minute, It sounds a
But
little.
Dave,
Yeah.
y'all haven't seen that interview when Obama did the press conference in 2015, and he was like, in 5 years, this is going to be like a
Yeah.
flu-like.
Yes.
Yeah.
We
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
prepare for it as much as we can, and like, oh
Mhm.
yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah, they
But
do.
exactly
that's
5 years to the
But
day.
if you notice, even in speaking with that and bringing that up back in 2015, if you notice with Trump, when he came in office, all those who were affiliated with dealing with that virus and all, right after he was inaugurated, he fired all of those
Yeah, they
people.
blew 'em
Yeah.
He
out.
got
Blew
rid
'em
of
out.
all of them
Yeah.
because he didn't want to listen to that. He wanted to create his own mastermind and what he wanted to do about it. But what he did was he actually shot himself in the foot because those people were already in tune to everything that was going on and could give him direction and where he needed to go in order to prepare for this.
Right.
But he is so in tune to himself until he cannot listen to anyone else. It's not a part of him, it's not his persona. He rather listen to his own mind, which is very destructive, and he wants to spread that poison around the world. But what is happening is that it's backfiring right in his face,
Okay.
and it's sad. But one thing I do want to acknowledge, we are in the process of, talking about all the people that have passed away that we recognize as entertainers. But we mustn't forget all those who are working behind the scenes, the police, the medical, the nurses, the doctors, everyone that is working through this virus. I speak about this on a personal note because my nephew had the coronavirus. He stayed in the hospital for 7 days. And I thank God for the nurses, the doctors, everyone that was involved in helping him to recover from this. And I thank God for all those who have lost their lives because of this, because of their talents and trying to help save someone else, where they actually lost their lives. But we mustn't forget those behind the scenes. We mustn't forget those.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Patrice, I think what were you about to say?
I was just gonna say we have to remember, again, everything is written, but also that there are patents, and whenever you have patents, you have to follow the money trail, and so you have to take politics, emotion, and all of that stuff out of it because it's so much bigger. Everything that we see, everything that they tell us that's not the information we need to know. We have to dig deeper and find out and peel the layers back and do our own due diligence and our own research. Everything that we see is just a script, it's just a play, it's just theatrics.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah, that's interesting because I think Mom, we were watching what's his name, Lil Richard's interview, and he was speaking to that, not to take what other people say, but do the research for yourself. He
Yeah.
actually said that in his interview with Arsenio Hall, which was
You're
interesting.
in
watched
trouble
his
for doing
interview.
that too, Dave.
You said what?
You're in trouble for doing that too.
For speaking the
researching
truth?
yourself and formulating your own opinion on things.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's repercussions for that too. So if you're not following the storylines of the news or the newspaper, and you do research and you do be like, hold up, I think what we're all focused on is wrong, then you get ridiculed for doing that, for doing your own
They make
research.
you, and I think Little Richard kind of went through that, and that's why like I said, his his persona became somewhat of a joke, so people wouldn't take his words as seriously. Yep. So yeah, I would be remiss if I did not have these three great mothers here. We have access to all of this wisdom and knowledge. I have to ask some motherly questions and specific things to you guys. So I want to start with the three ladies. I just want to know, in your opinion, where do babies come from? No, I'm just kidding. No,
Well, if you don't know by now, son, I'm not about to tell you.
Dave don't have no kids, so he may not know.
No, yeah, I'm the only person on here with no babies, but to the mothers, I just want to a couple of friends of mine and I have had this conversation. It's like an ongoing conversation that we have, that we talk about I'm using one of Patricia's terms, a shift in the kind of the mindset of mothers over the last maybe 15 to 20 years, and how we remember a time when, a person would have a child and it would change their whole life. A lot of things that they were doing they wouldn't do, or just make changes to be more accommodating, and basically dedicating themselves and their lives to that child's growth and knowledge and things. And I've seen a lot of moving away from that. The conversation came about one night. A friend of mine, my boy Rob, he used to be a bouncer. And so sometimes he would need a ride to and from the club that he bounced at, so I would hang out with him. And we're sitting in Denny's one night after the club. It had to be like 3 o'clock in the morning. And there's a young girl there, and she had a baby with her. And the baby screaming at the top of his lungs, crying. And every mother in there is saying, that baby's tired. He needs to go to bed. He needs to be at home somewhere in the bed. And she's just sitting there eating, and somebody said something to her. And she's like, oh, no, it's okay. I just ignore him. And she went on eating. And it's kind of that perception that, that I've seen more recently, that some mothers have, that, you still have to live your life and do your thing and be, everything that, you used to be before you were a mother. And I've always, like I said, we've had this conversation for a while, and I've always wanted to get some true mother's perspective on this. So, so I want to.
What exactly is your question?
You know what? Jason says that a lot to me. Anyway, but
Yeah. Ramble a lot, Dave.
Well, I like to set it up and set the scene for everything. But do you notice a shift in the mentality of parents these days as opposed to, let's say, when you became a parent?
Joey, did you want to start, or I can?
No, there absolutely has been a shift, but for me, my example was my mother. And she set the example for me. And so I had to try to live up to the example that she set.
Right.
So part of the problem is that, our young people are just having children and they don't have an example.
Right.
So many things have come against our community and they don't have an example to follow. And so it's all about them. It's not about sacrifice. Love is an emotion, but the important part of love is sacrifice. When you will sacrifice for your children, and that what is missing a lot in the mothers today. They're not willing to sacrifice for their children.
Exactly.
All right.
But the difference that I see right now, and I'm not sure about how all of it is transpiring, but because of the coronavirus and because of the schools being closed and the children being home, there is somewhat a different attitude of the parents. We sit back and because I know I worked in the school system for 7 years, and I know how the parents presented themselves to the school administration when something was going on with their child. The first thing they would do was jump on the administration. But now that a lot of the parents have been home with their children for the past couple of months, they are realizing and seeing the difference in their children and their own attitudes about their children. They are now getting a feel of what a lot of the teachers and the administration have had to deal with their children. Now they're going to have to deal with it themselves. And they're now becoming more in tune with their children and going back to school like we used to, where you had your children at home. You were there with them. You would sit around the table and eat together. You would study with the children. You would teach them to do their chores and things that you would have them to do now. It's a big difference. And it's a shame that it took this coronavirus to bring people back to the reality of family. People have been missing the reality of family because everyone was in an individual mind. Oh, I have to work. I have to do this. They come home, their children are home, they come in from aftercare, have your dinner, do your homework, take your bath, go to bed. That's the only time that they have for their children, but now it's an all-day thing, and it makes a big difference. I know a lot of parents have thanked teachers now, since this thing has been going on, of what they had to put up with their children. Now they're putting up with them now, and they realize, and hopefully, prayerfully, when everything clears up and these kids get back to school, I pray that there will be a different attitude with
I
the
think
children
so.
and the parents when they get back into the school system.
I think so, definitely, and that's an interesting point. I saw a bumper sticker the other day that said, "The teacher lied. My child is not a joy to be around." And it was a funny bumper sticker to a certain extent, but it got me to think. It got me to thinking like this bumper sticker is weird because what does that say about you as a parent? Like whose responsibility is it to make sure your child is a joy to be around? It's yours, right? So that you probably shouldn't. That wasn't the smartest, bumper sticker to have because it speaks to, the person's ability as a parent. So yeah, I
But
definitely
it's a
agree.
reality check. It's a
Yeah, yeah, you
reality
get to
check,
really
you
see what your
know?
kids are like, and that's been an interesting aspect of it. Um, I,
Absolutely.
I want to ask.
What
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and piggybacking on what Joey said, you know, it is the foundation of the grandparents,
Mm-hmm.
your parents, you know, our parents, who taught us so much about being parents and what the responsibility is and the sacrifices that we make for our children. And I too thank God for my parents for what they did. There's a lot that transpires through life, but we learn as we go.
Definitely.
And we have to understand that some rules, some regulations are meant to be followed. And if it means going back in time to old school, you got to do it.
Yeah, yeah. And Miss Joy, I think you were gonna make a point. Did you have something to say?
No, I was just agreeing with what she was saying.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
I agree.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
agree. And
So,
Patrice, you're a young mother. What's up with you?
yeah, I was
have
about
so
to ask
much
her.
to say. I have so much to say. So
Yeah. So I want.
I'll be
Go ahead.
so look, this might take a second, but I'll be 44 my birthday, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom, and my parents were
Yeah.
together for 43 years.
Mm,
Hmm.
Um, my mentality and my thinking is a lot different, and I don't really talk about it, but I'm going to take this moment to talk about it. Where we are going right now, the parents being home with the children, we are literally being forced into survival mode, but we're also being forced into being in a space where honestly we should have been in.
yeah.
Yeah.
My dad used to talk about this all the time, and it's why my mother stayed at home with three children.
Hmm.
And not everybody would agree with this, but I'm just telling you how my dad moved. He was
Right.
real old
Yes.
school. And he
Yes, he
believed,
was.
just like back in the day, before the feminist movement, before the white women and the feminist movement, and it, broke up in the civil rights movement, all that the woman take care of the kids, and he went out and he made the bread, and my mother was his backbone, and they worked
Hmm.
together as a unit,
Hmm.
and that's
Hmm.
how they stayed together. And we didn't have it great. Sometimes we didn't have light, sometimes we used the stove to
Right.
heat the
Right.
house,
Right.
but we were a family, and if
Hmm.
we didn't have lights, we still sat at the table with a candle, with a
Yes.
flashlight, and we
Exactly.
ate. If we ate oodles
Hmm.
and noodles, sometimes we had steak, but
Yeah.
we were a family. We're together. So what people are experiencing now, I'm looking at social media, and I'm looking at these people complaining about their children,
Yeah.
and I'm like, don't y'all know that your children can see you?
Okay.
Like, they can see you talking badly. Like,
Hmm.
that's a sticker that you just said, Dave, made me cringe.
Yeah.
Because I
Yes.
was like, oh my God, what if my son saw that?
Yeah.
I would
Hmm.
feel terrible. Like, and we also have to realize that our children are being pulled out of being social.
Yes.
They're having to digitally connect,
Hmm.
a one-dimensional connection with their deepest mind and their deepest spirit, and not be around their friends. Like,
Yeah.
it's just so much going on right now. But my point, back to my point, we're placed in this space where that now the woman is in the home. Now she
Yes.
has to help with homework. Now
Yeah.
Hmm.
look, and she has to cook. I know so many
Yes.
friends that don't cook. They're like, how do you cook? What? You're 40 something. How do you not know how to cook? Are you
Yeah.
serious right now? Like,
Yeah.
everybody's trying to go out. They're trying to Uber eat, and I'm like, Why would you want to Uber eat and you think it's a deadly virus out here? You got somebody else putting their hands in your food.
Exactly.
I could go way left, but my point, just to your point about sacrifice, that Jay's mom. I'm sorry, so Jay's mom. To your point about sacrifice, so I'll just share this little bit. Yesterday for my Mother's Day, it was the best Mother's Day I've ever had, and I'm gonna try not to cry because I'm not a crier.
Yes, you are.
Let it flow.
My son is 14 now. When he was 8 or so, me and his dad split up, but it was a very abrupt split. I had, 30 days to find a place. So I essentially didn't have a place, and he went his way and I went mine. So I was homeless for like a year and a half. And my mom said to me yesterday, she said, you knew you could have came here, but Miss Cookie, as you know, my mom lives too far. I couldn't do business and live in Richmond. Yeah. And so I had to hustle, and I had hotel rooms. Sometimes we were in a car. But he was also with his dad. So he was with both of us. His dad has always been in his life, but we were split and we were in different households. He had his household, but I didn't have a house to be in. So he was with me. So yesterday for Mother's Day, so we used to live in this basement, but it was like a teeny tiny room. The basement, our room was so small that the mattress took up the whole room, and we could only, we had this little, and so he texted me and told me he had something that he made me for Mother's Day, but he was going to show me the next day. So yesterday he called and he FaceTimed me, and he had put together a PowerPoint slide.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And it was pictures of us, and one of the most powerful slides, he said, I'm so proud of you. He said, I'm proud of you because we used to be in that basement, and you got out of that basement, and you got your own business, and you got your own place, and you got your own car. And most people would have stayed in that basement, but you didn't. Yeah. And I'm proud of you for that. And he said it, sorry.
That's all right. That's all right.
And I did it with no government assistance, no child support, none of that. I wanted him to see that you have to use your innate greatness and tap into your power and be great. And so I sacrificed so much. Some days I didn't eat. It was times I didn't eat for weeks. And I wanted to make sure he was okay. So that love, and I cried, and he laughed so hard. He's like, "Mom, you're such a cringe ball."
I told you.
But your children will touch the deepest part. Your children will touch the deepest part of your heart, and bring out the most memorable things. Yeah. And they see it one way, but you see it another. But you both reach the same point, and it's so appreciated. And the thing is, you love him for what he did. He didn't have to do that.
So amazing.
But he did that, But that's why, I tell people, they celebrate Mother's Day in May, but every day is Mother's Day.
Yeah, definitely. And so I want to, let me see what we got some time left. Okay, I want to start with Patrice. And ask this question to all of the mothers. First of all, being a mother is a huge undertaking. What would you say is the biggest lesson that motherhood has taught you about life, about yourself, about just living life?
The motherhood has taught me. Motherhood has taught me to honor the art of being patient, being resilient, and trusting divine alignment. Because we don't actually know what's going to happen, and we don't have a blueprint. We only can use, to Jay's mom's point, the toolbox that we've been given by our parents, we have to learn not to run to a book, a guideline or others to try to figure out how to parent. And we have to talk to our ancestors and really tap into our innate greatness and our ability to tap into our that powerful feminine energy. That is what gets us through. And there were moments, I'm just gonna go somewhere real quick in my mind. I can see it. I remember when I would drive, and I would try to figure out where me and my son were going to sleep, or what I was going to do, how we were going to get a hotel room. And I would be driving, and I had this habit that I developed, and I would grind my teeth because I was so intensely thinking. But what I was really doing, like at the time my dad had passed, and I was tapping into that energy, like, you know, all of the things that he taught me and all of the things that my mom taught me, and really trusting that and trying to figure out what my next move would be, but still making sure that's side by side with the divine alignment, and making sure I'm doing this and I'm not here and there and everywhere.
Right.
So I would say those things, you know, really trusting that inner voice, that innate greatness, that feminine energy, and having patience, and knowing and speaking that everything will be okay.
That's great. That's great. And Miss Joey, you know, what's the biggest lesson you've learned from motherhood?
Continue to trust in the Lord, and I really tap into heavily into prayer, and my son has been quite a challenge. And
that guy? No.
my son has been quite a challenge. And so, you know, he has challenged me to look within myself too, and to really just to hold on to the Lord, and to and perseverance, like Patrice was saying, you know, perseverance, and really not giving up, and not giving up and not giving in. There it is.
Definitely.
You sound like my mom. She says that.
And Mom,
it does sound like your mom, Patrice.
and Mom, you want to add
real quick, all of us went to Our Lady too.
Oh wow! Yeah, we
All
did.
the kids on the
Right?
Yeah, we all
So all of the parents kind of like have a similar idea of what they thought they wanted their kids to be.
Right, yeah.
We were looking for divine guidance. That's what it was.
So, Mom, do you have any, have anything to add to the what motherhood taught you conversation?
Well, it actually taught me a lot, because I became a mother before I became a mother. The reason why I say this is because May is a trying month for me, because on especially Memorial Day, because my father passed in 1968 on Memorial Day, and then my husband passed in 2012 on Memorial Day. So it makes it difficult. But speaking back in 1968, when my dad passed, my mom became very sick. She had 6 children, and we were staying with my grandparents. But in the midst of that, I had to grow up really fast. And in growing up really fast, I had to become a parent before I became a parent, by helping to take care of my brothers and sisters. And what really kicked in was at the time when I was in high school, it taught me about motherhood and parenting. And I thank God for that, because it instilled in me a lot that taught me how to raise my children. And even with my brothers and sisters today, this is 2020, my brothers and sisters still call me and ask my advice as if I am their mom. Mom passed in 2015, but I'm like Mom now. And it has instilled a lot in me, and I have got more children than I could ever have birthed in life, because everyone turns to me, call me, even from church. They, the kids are calling me and talking with me and getting maternal advice. But I thank God for that instillment that He put in me to be a guiding point for others and how they do their children. And in teaching me, it taught me to love. It taught me to be strong. It taught me to be a guiding force to be able to control and do what I need to do in my mind to make things right for my children. And I don't regret not one moment of anything that has happened in my life because it is still helping me to grow, to continue to be a better parent, even to my grandson. So, you have a power within you that God instills, and He gives you many gifts, and one of them is parenting. And through that, we pass it on down to our grandchildren, which Joy understands, which she has her grandchildren too. And it's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing being a parent. You don't know unless you're a parent. Not that I'm pushing anything, David, but anyway.
I be pushing it for you, Miss Cook. Ask him. I be on him, Miss Cook.
But it's a joy to my heart. And then listening to Patrice and all that she went through, you should have called me. But anyway, I'm glad that everybody has gone through what they have gone through because we wouldn't be here together today to be able to talk about this without experiencing what we did in life with and without our children. So to God be the glory for everything that has transpired in our lives.
Yeah, definitely. Mom, I just wanted real quick. Do you need that? I saw the plumbing. Is that done? Is that okay? Is he still there?
He's still rolling with it.
Okay.
I hear him coming in and out. So I haven't jumped up and ran because nothing has exploded. We're okay.
Right. Okay. Just checking. All right. Before we wrap up, I just wanted to two real quick things. One thing I started to talk about, CNBC had done a poll, and they always say they poll like American public, but I don't know who they never asked me any questions. But anyway, they polled some American men and women about the roles of men and women in the household and how they've shifted and kind of adjusted over the years. And let me see if I can pull up this picture here to talk about the poll a little bit.
Notes.
Yeah, I like to take notes and be prepared.
While you pulling that up, I just wanted to.
This is part of our show. Like the me and Dave bickering is what keeps our viewers tuning in.
I tell people we've known each other so long that we bicker like an old married couple. But
hey, hold on there.
Pause. It's a joke.
You only best for friends, okay?
Yeah, it's a joke, Mama. It's just a joke.
But just to piggyback on Patrice one more time, is that even though her mom was a stay-at-home mom, so was I. Excuse me. I was a stay-at-home mom until my kids went to high school. And then I kind of ventured out into the world, but I was still there for my kids, and I'm still here. Sometimes I wish that I would change my name, but it doesn't work that way. So I just, grin and bear it. I just grin and bear it because I still have some little things that Ivan and David and Lawrence do in this house that Ivan and David used to do when they were small in this house.
You gotta tell everybody the business. Wait a minute.
I'm not going to go into detail, but David knows what I'm talking about, okay?
Yeah. Okay. All right. But I don't know what happened to my picture, but basically it was talking about the shift in the roles, and the poll was saying that men have taken over a lot of the roles that used to be specifically or thought of as more of the women specific. And I don't think that there's any specific gender roles to a certain extent anymore. It's like whoever is better at doing certain things like washing dishes, washing clothes, cooking, cleaning, things of that nature.
And that's why dating's hard.
You said that's why dating's hard. So Patrice, do you think
whole
that
mixture?
do you think that shift in gender roles has affected? Well, I guess you are saying that's why it's harder. Do you think that's made it difficult?
I wouldn't say difficult. It's different. It's like just like if we talk about the emasculation of the black man and we go into all of that, and the whole feminism. It rolls over into every aspect of living, including dating and partnerships. So it's and many people, because I mean, in actuality, most people are followers and not leaders. Everybody adopts the thinking, and it's just like it's hard to have conversations because not everybody is still old fashioned. Like I'm very old fashioned. I'm the same. I don't think that time should shift the way that your morals and your beliefs. I don't think time should shift that. Time doesn't shift that for me. So I still feel the same way. The same way your mom is saying. Like I still have the same thinking. So I definitely do it. I think it does play a part.
Okay. Yeah, and so everybody that comes on here, I usually ask them one question to wrap it up, and I'm going to pose the question to our two moms that are here. And I'm going to start with Miss Joey. I'm going to ask you if you had an opportunity, knowing everything you know now, going through everything you've been through in your life, if you had an opportunity to go back in time and talk to let's say 12-year-old you, if you could get in a time machine and go back and talk to yourself at 12 years old and have a conversation with yourself, what would that conversation be like? What kind of things would you tell that young lady?
Well, I would tell that young lady one thing. I was raised to, I never learned how to cook or anything. My mother raised me because she was a great cook and a great housewife, and she did not want me to do any of those things. She wanted me to work in the office, and I've never learned how to cook. I still don't. My husband does all the cooking. He's always done all the cooking.
Oh, okay.
That's why I married him. Okay, I would go back.
Lucky you.
I would go back and say, Joy Lane, you need to learn how to do some of these domestic things.
No.
Because my mother was so great at it, and she never taught me, because she never wanted me to learn. And I would just say, that you're gonna go up and you're gonna, your mother is gonna be your greatest influence in your life, and watch her closely, because which I did do. But I would go back and say that because I've never been a domestic, never. And I would like to, do more of that, but once you hit 70, hey, that's the way it is.
Yeah.
That's the way it is.
It's funny. My dad was the cook too. My mom didn't. My dad was the cook.
Your dad was the cook too.
Yeah, he taught me how to make gravy from scratch, and so my dad was the cook. My mom, she does her thing now, but she that was his thing.
and my mom used to it's funny because my mom was kind of like Miss Joy, you were saying about your mom. She's like a great cook and a great housewife, but she also catered and did things, cooking with the church and stuff. So she cooked so much. She would have me and my brother. She I'm not cooking when I get home. Y'all get in there and make some eggs or make some. And so we had to learn, how to, so we had to pick up those cooking skills.
Well, it was good, but it gave you an opportunity to learn things too, because growing up, I mean, okay, going back to what you said, let me go back to that first. I was talking to my 12-year-old self.
Okay.
I don't know what exactly I would say to myself, because everything was, being the oldest girl, everything was put in my lap. So I would just say, just pace yourself, because so many things are going to transpire in your life that's going to affect you when you get older, and that you will be able to handle whatever situation comes up in your life, and always trust in the Word of God and know that He's your guiding force. I think that would be the thing that I would say, because with having younger siblings and being the oldest girl, I had a lot of responsibility. Because like I said, I was 12, actually, almost 12, when my dad passed. So a lot fell on me at that time. I wish things had been different. I wish that my dad had lived, to see all his children grow up and see everything. But I always think, my brothers and sisters, we always said that if Dad had lived, things would have been different in our lives, which I know he would have been so proud of us and helped us a lot. But I really wouldn't change a thing in my life, or to guide myself in another direction. I would stay the course and do what I have done, and thankful that I did it because it has given me insight to give to others. So I'm okay.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm gonna end it with this is a unique opportunity. We have all this wisdom here, and we have Patrice, who, as you've heard, her son is 14, and so do you ladies have any words of advice for her raising? Because you both raised boys, into men,
Yes,
and she's on that path right now. And so, there any gems that you can give her? And when speaking this, of course, our viewers will see it, and so it'll be helpful to, a lot of folks. So, is there anything that you can give her, at this time? And no pressure, of course, but you got to say something. No, I'm just kidding. But
Love your child in spite of, okay? Love them in spite of, because there are going to be times that you want to just slap him on both sides of his face to wake him up, but just love him. That's the
Yes,
thing, is
ma'am.
just love him unconditionally and be patient with him, because
Yes,
he's
ma'am.
still got a lot of maturing to do and a lot of things to learn, but your guidance is the main thing that he needs right now, is your guidance and just being there as a support. That's what
Yes,
he needs.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
yeah,
Yes. And I would say, baby, trust in the Lord.
Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely.
He will guide you.
Absolutely.
Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
You're
So,
welcome.
this has been
I
a
love
great.
you all. Jason, I have
Huh?
to say this,
Oh.
as your mom started out, that you were a handful. Yes, I do know that, because you were one of my wards here at my house.
know.
I took care of you. And
They,
yes, you
they
were a
didn't even remember
handful.
that. They didn't even
Okay.
remember
Yeah, I
you
was
could
like,
babysit.
really?
Yeah.
But
I was
look,
really
you
young
were
back
a
then.
handful by yourself, because you, Ivan, and David were the three musketeers or the three stooges. I don't know
Yeah, I
which
hear-
one, okay?
Ma, I hear the
Can
I
I-
hear the helicopter. It sounds like your ride is coming. No, I'm just playing.
Can I come one day and listen to some stories from
Oh,
you
of course,
guys? That
my,
might be interesting. I
look,
want some
my door is, my
Jay-
door is always open. My door is
Okay.
always open, okay?
I don't know. We might have to. Jay, we gotta lock them doors. We can't let them.
Yeah, because I was so young. I don't even remember all of this bad stuff they
Right.
saying I was doing. I don't recall that.
You have at this point selective amnesia, okay?
Hold up. By the time you started babysitting me, I was what, 6? I was 6, because I was at Islands Art till 5,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, so
Yeah.
so Miss Cookie babysitted me probably like 6 and maybe 7. I don't remember. I didn't want me to.
Oh, that's
I
your
wasn't that
that's your
bad. People
excuse.
watching. Don't listen to these lying mothers
I said the
destroying
three
my
of you.
reputation.
I said the three of you now.
to hear.
You weren't in this all by yourself. It was the three of you. You, like I said,
blame
you-
Ivan because he's not here. Let's blame Ivan. He's the only one not on the call.
Right.
It's Ivan's fault.
That's all he did. He did it. I agree. I did that a lot growing up. I blame my brother. So that's it. No, but yeah, I just want to first of all, I want to thank my mom and Jay, your mom, Miss Green, for coming and being a part of this Mother's Day show that we did, and just sharing your stories and your wisdom and your joy. It's always great to be in y'all's presence, and I really appreciate you all agreeing to do it. Thank you so much. And Patrice, go ahead. What you got?
I just
you
want to
looking.
say something really quick. It's real 30 seconds. To both of you ladies, you queens. I just want to thank you because I enjoy receiving a word from my elders, and I appreciate all of the tips that you gave and everything that you brought to the conversation. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, thank you for family.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Absolutely.
family.
Yes. Family. Yes, ma'am.
Hey, Dave.
Yo.
My mom was like, I want to meet Patrice.
Everybody feels like that. Yeah. She got that infectious spirit. Yeah, you got to come through one day, Patrice.
Thank you.
Yeah, we all can hang out at some point. And Patrice, I want
We
to
gotta set.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say we gotta set up this powwow so I can hear these stories.
Definitely.
I want to see you in person, baby.
Oh,
Okay.
yes, ma'am.
Alright.
She's social distancing, Mom.
Yeah,
Oh,
after everything's over, we'll work it out. We'll work it
I'm
out.
coming to see your
It
mom.
may be social distancing, but it's not that distant,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah. Share the love.
Well, I gotta respect where everybody's at with it, so whatever people feel comfortable with.
See, Patrice, they're becoming afraid, very afraid, okay?
Oh,
They
no.
don't know what I'm going to say, that's the problem.
And they don't
No.
know what you guys remember.
Okay,
Yeah, that's- yeah.
okay. Yeah, I got a memory like a trap door, you
None
know,
of
it
it's
stays
true.
in there, and every now
not
and then
true.
I open it and let some of it out, you
I
know?
don't believe it, but Patrice, I wanted to say also, thank you for sharing your story like that. There's always the potential that somebody could be watching it, going through or about to go through the same thing that you go through, and
Oh, yeah.
the testimony. And I say it to you often that I look at you as a superhero because of some of the stuff that you've done, not even knowing that part of the story until now. But yeah, it's beautiful that you were able to share that because that testimony can definitely help others and give guidance, and to see that you came out on the other side and you are running a successful business, and like you said, you came from that basement and now you have a place to stay, you have a roof over your head,
That's
you have
right.
a car, you have a business,
It's so
you got all that.
encouraging.
It's
So
that's
encouraging.
real powerful.
I'm so very thankful. Every day I walk in gratitude and love. I walk in abundance. Like right now, I don't really know none of us really know what's going to happen, but
That's
you
right.
got to walk in abundance and love and gratitude. And so that's how I run my business. My business is that. It's
That's
That's
great.
right.
That's great.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
And never take life for granted, okay?
absolutely, yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, all right.
I
With
love
that.
you all. I love
Yeah,
all
that's a
of
great
you.
way to wrap it up, guys. Thank you so much on
Hold
behalf.
up, Dave.
Well, what you got,
Dave.
Jay? What you
We
got?
got another call-in joint by someone. Most of us, now I don't know if you know him, Miss Cookie, but Timothy James, who me, Patrice, and my mother know.
Oh,
His
okay.
comment is, teach them lessons that will arm them for the world. Having raised one of my sons since he was 3 months, he has grown into his own identity. Yet he does value and apply some of my teachings.
All right.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
All right.
Shout out to Tim.
Excellent.
All right.
Yes.
Salute,
Yes.
Tim, salute.
Shout out.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, with that, we're going to wrap it up. And like I said, thank you guys so much for coming through. On behalf of my team, myself, Super Dave, a.k.a. Mr. Incredible, Patrice, Fruitfit Jones, and Jason, the DMV's, I keep saying DMV's, DC's native son, and Jason, the SC3 representative, and our mommies. Thank you guys for checking us out. You guys have a great one. This has been another episode of Neighborish. Peace.
Peace.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.